Welcome to the show. I am James Swanwick. If you are a parent, then you'll definitely want to listen to the following conversation because our drinking habits are affecting our children's habits. In fact, children watch us, they study us. Even if they're late teenagers or they're adult children, they're still mimicking, in many cases, our behavior. Now, if you are drinking even what you consider to be a modest amount and you have children of whatever age, chances are that they are watching, studying, and mimicking your behavior. Today, in this conversation, we're going to speak with a wonderful man by the name of Jim Miller, who actually works inside of the Alcohol-Free Lifestyle organization. He's actually the director of membership development at Alcohol-Free Lifestyle. He speaks to many of our would-be clients who apply to be part of our Project 90 program and our 365-day program, where we help executives and entrepreneurs and high achievers to stop drinking. And Jim comes from 4 generations of alcoholics and knows firsthand, has experienced firsthand what it is like to have a parent or parents who drink far too much. And in his father's case, is actually an alcoholic. So if you're a parent, please do listen intently and welcome to Mr. Jim Miller. Great to have you here, Jim.
It's great to be here, James. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah. Just tell us a little bit about you and your background, where you're from, a little bit about your, personal life and your personal situation.
Okay. Well, first of all, I come from New Orleans. So right there, we know that that's a very fertile place for any type of alcohol activity, right? 24-hour bars, drive-through daiquiris. And I was raised in that culture. I come from a family where as I mentioned, my father was the son of an alcoholic. I am the son of an alcoholic. His father was the son of an alcoholic. So, I was raised in an alcoholic family. I was raised with a brother and 2 sisters and a mother who desperately all of her life fought off the ravages of my father's alcohol and supported him because there was a lot of sickness. There was a lot of suffering. Alcohol, as we know, is progressive, so it only gets worse with age. And we as children, all of us, witnessed that. I remember as a young boy, every day my dad would come home, and I had these high expectations and hopes of interacting with him, right? Because it's like my dad. So I wanted to interact, and I needed that. I needed that as a child, especially as a boy. I don't know the experience of girls, but as a boy. Right from work, he would slip into and just disappear into that bottle of Taka vodka. And I would lose my dad every night and watch him basically melt away into a place where he would just basically drink himself to sleep every night, right? And then, of course, there were instances where socially, like at a ball game or something, he'd just drink too much and get obnoxious. And I was angry and I was resentful. It's like, why are you doing this to us? Why don't you stop? You want to do this, so I had all this conflict. As a, why would my father do this? No. And it wasn't until I was a grown man that I realized, and had compassion for my father and realized that, he was under the control of alcohol. And ultimately, I was able to forgive him, and we came to, terms of reconciliation before he ultimately passed away of cancer. He did stop drinking in the end. But his father and father before him, all of them, died alcoholics.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a long line of alcoholism in your family. And how old were you when the worst of his drinking was really affecting you and your brother and sister?
Well, I was probably at the age of 18 and 19, because like I said, and like I tell anyone that I speak to on the on our calls, our initial calls, is it's a progressive condition. So not only does the attachment to alcohol become deeper and deeper, but the body itself, the brain itself, starts to break down, because it's been basically a detoxification mechanism all these years. So it was around the time I was 18 or 19 or 20 actually, and I started university, and I went to Tulane. It was a very expensive university. I had a full scholarship there, academic scholarship, but I also worked 2 jobs, to help support the family and also make money for myself. So I was under a lot of stress. My father's alcoholism was really severe. He was sick a lot, so there were financial strains on the family. My 2 younger sisters were teenage girls, so that was a mess. My brother moved out of the house. He was the smart one, right? He just got the hell out of there. And I resented him for that. I resented him, because I was the older brother and I was taking care of everything. It was like, and I expected everybody to have this understanding and this mindset of, let's take care of the family. Let's, it's falling apart, right? My brother just said, hell with this, and got out of there, packed his bags and went up to LSU, right? Anyway, So that was that.
I want to just spend a little time talking about that a little further, but I want to just, for the benefit of the listener, just fast forward to where you've ended up. Because you're 64 years old as we're recording this, and you're the father of 2 teenage girls.
Correct.
You've been married how many years?
21 years married to
Amazing. Amazing. And you turned out pretty good in the end, I think, Jim, because you ended up being the vice president of sales for Tony Robbins, and you sat on Tony Robbins' executive board. And then you were also the vice president of sales for T. Harv Eker, who, of course, is very famous in the personal development world. Right. And then the VP of sales at Success Resources International, VP of sales at North America, which, of course, is a huge events business and company. And you're also a fellow in the Harvard University Institute of Coaching. So it's a pretty impressive CV, not just on a professional level, but also a family level. Your father of 2 teenage girls, you've been married 21 years. How did you turn out seemingly okay when you grew up in a household that was probably what you might describe as unhealthy and dysfunctional?
Well, we were unhealthy and dysfunctional. There's no doubt. Now, I will tell you this: there was a lot of love. There was a lot of love there, especially from my mother, and my father loved us too as well. He didn't know how to express it well, because he never got it. I mean, he was abandoned by both his mother and his father when he was 8 years old, right? Mm-hmm. He and his sister. So they lived with relatives, passed around like a suitcase with relatives. But I was always a high performing kid. I was president of every school that I went to, and, played football and all this other kind of stuff. But I think I did that a lot too, to cover up, shame, and despair a lot. And also too, incidental poverty. Right. So, I fell in love with the field of influence and negotiation, and I fell in love with it, and I approached it as someone would have that is studying for law, for example, or studying for medicine. I'm reading books, by Nobel Prize winners, psychologists, So I really went at things at a very high academic level in my field, which really, for the most part, most people don't. Most people, they read sales books. They read, this crap about how to basically manipulate people. But I went at it from a different perspective, and also too, I've had a lot of leadership training, and I enjoy working with people. I really do. I really enjoy human interaction. So I've been fortunate. I've been blessed in my life. I've had challenges. Don't get me wrong. I've had a lot of challenges, but for some reason, the ship keeps sailing correctly, and also too, I take risks. I'm not afraid to talk to the highest level of people in any situation. Because I look at them as human beings. You're a human being just like I am. Let's have a conversation of opportunity, right?
What is it like when you're speaking to applicants for our programs here? Like, what's it like when you're speaking on the phone? And maybe you can just describe who are the people who apply to work with us, and how does the conversation go? And just maybe fill our listener in on that.
Extremely interesting people. I mean, it's really the most interesting group of people I've ever talked to in my life, because everybody's a CEO, a surgeon, a pilot, Grammy Award nominee. I mean, you name it, right? We've got people, because alcohol, it doesn't discriminate, right? You could be a pauper or a king. They call alcohol the great equalizer, right? I mean, it's like, it just cuts across everything. Well, we're a community where executives can come, because there's really, think about going to an AA meeting. What do you have in common with the 20-year-old meth addict that's been remanded by the courts? There's no similarity there. And the truth is, the reason why AA worked in the first place is because when Bill W. started AA back in the 20s or 30s, it was a group of very common, similar people, of very devout Christian men who have hit bottom in their alcohol experience. So because of that similarity, it all worked. When AA became a non-secular or secular rather, then all of that fell apart. And so all of these 12 principles that are faith-based, this big book that is faith-based, all of that now really had no relevancy to most people. So our community is a place where executives can come, have conversations at that level, see themselves in the other people. And really, the conversations that I'm having with them are extraordinarily interesting, because they're being affected in different ways. Alcohol is affecting their life in different ways. Every single person that I'm talking to is a high achiever, right? Very high achievers in life. They're out there conquering the world. And to the outside world, they really look like they got their life together. They really appear that way. But they're living, a lot of times, like many clients tell me, it's like, Jim, I'm living a lie. It's a hypocrisy, because behind the scenes, I'm a mess. Or I can't get control of this, and I don't know why, because I can control anything else. My marriage, my wife, my husband is really unhappy. And, sometimes there's an ultimatum. My kids are looking at me and confronting me. My teenage kids are asking me, Dad, you got to quit drinking, man. You got to cut back. You embarrassed me. This kind of stuff. And also, too, more importantly, I'm not sleeping well. I'm not I've got 20 extra pounds on me. I'm not hitting the gym like I used to. I'm not as productive. So another thing that's really surprising, James, is I ask everyone on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being that you're in your grave, 10 being that you're at your highest manifestation of who you are. Where are you showing up every day? And I'm telling you, to a T, it's a 5 or a 6. Which means, and I tell them, I said, do you realize you're leaving half of you in a bottle every day and it's not showing up? I mean, imagine if all of you showed up to your business, to your children, to your wife, how that's going to affect you financially, how that's going to affect you physically. Look what you've got to lose. I mean, everybody I speak to has a lot to lose. Yeah. Everyone I speak to has a lot to lose. So, again, it's just, there's a lot of frustration, there's a lot of shame. There a lot of embarrassment. Why can't I take care of this? Or, why did I let, I know I make a fool of myself at dinners because I can't stop drinking when everybody else does. Or when everybody else is nurturing that one old fashioned, I'm on the second one, ready to order the third one, right? Yeah. Or, I crack open that beer. I start cracking open that beer at 3:00 in the afternoon. And before I know it, I've got 8 beers every day under my belt. I start doing the math with some of these people, and they don't realize the volume of alcohol that they're pouring into their body and into their brain. Mm-hmm. I tell them, I said, alcohol abuse is one of the number one precursors to Alzheimer and dementia.
Oh, yeah.
If you don't start taking care of that at some point, here's another thing I tell them, because I've had this told to me. We have doctors, we have surgeons, we have heads of nursing departments that come into our community. And the other day I had one of them tell me, he said, Jim, what I see, you don't see. I cut into people's brains and I cut into their guts. I'm a surgeon.
Wow.
And I get to see the ravages of alcohol that people didn't even realize they had a problem. And I see the ravages. And there are many instances where there is a point that if you cross over that, there's no coming back. That scares me. That scares me. And it's like, wow, amazing. Because we do have a number of medical people.
It's fascinating, isn't it? I'm always surprised at how many doctors and surgeons and physicians are very unhealthy, concede to being very unhealthy in their own lives. It's extraordinary. Yeah. Hi, this is James Swanwick, and we're taking applications for our 90-day and 1-year stop drinking programs. Clients are mostly executives, entrepreneurs, and investors who have tried unsuccessfully and repeatedly to stop drinking but remain stuck in a frustrating cycle of stop-start, stop-start. Our programs are not AA, which has a reported 7% success rate. Our programs are not rehab, which has a reported 6% success rate. Our 90-day and 1-year programs involve a safe, fun, virtual community of high achievers with a process that boasts an incredible 92% success rate of clients reaching at least 90 consecutive days alcohol-free. We use the latest neuroscience and personal development processes to help rewire clients' brains around alcohol and minimize its importance in their lives. We will show you how to powerfully socialize with friends, family, and colleagues, what to say and how to say it so people don't mistakenly think that you're an alcoholic or have a problem, and how to eliminate the temptation of returning to constant drinking so you can finally break the stop-start cycle. To ensure client success, Project 90 can only accept 15 new clients each month. Some of those happy clients include John Keltner from California, who said, "I've lost 10 pounds." Susie Vaughn, a real estate broker in Tennessee, who said, "I've generated 20% more leads." Jessica Gaines Jarbo from Kentucky, who says, "I've now got joy, focus, presence, and clarity. And Joe Worley from Michigan, who says, "My wife has the real Joe back." If you're an executive, entrepreneur, or investor who's sick of the stop-start cycle and the damaging effects alcohol has on your health, happiness, and family, and you're ready to regain confidence, become more present with your spouse and children, reduce stress, anxiety, and irritability, sleep better, increase focus and productivity, and feel better quickly, you're invited to apply to become a Project 90 client. Applicants can apply for an introductory interview by visiting alcoholfreelifestyle.com/project90. There's a link in the show notes which you can just click, but that link is alcoholfreelifestyle.com/project90. Application interviews are limited and are conducted on a first come, first served basis. If there are no remaining interview times available, wait a few weeks and try again. Let's get back to the show. I guess when people are sharing that with you, Jim, because you grew up in a household where alcohol was forever present, and as I understand it, you experienced depression and despair from being raised in that household at times.
I did.
And I guess experiencing that, you're in a pretty strong position to be able to understand what a lot of these folks are saying. But what was that depression and despair? Maybe just
I'm happy to, because I know, again, many of the people that I speak to have experienced it. And unfortunately, and this is the message I try to get across to them, is that generationally, nine out of 10 people I speak to have generational alcohol issues. 9 out of 10. Grandparents, parents, siblings that either have alcohol or addictive personalities. And so, I tell them, I said, listen, what you're doing is unless it stops with you, it's going to continue generationally. So the experience you had in your home with your parents, your children are going to remember that as your legacy with them. Understand? So, look, I study etymology, right? I study etymology, the origins of word. And so the word compassion, meaning with, and passion comes from the word passeo, which means to suffer. So to have compassion with someone is to be able to enter into their suffering. And I can enter into the suffering of the people that I speak with because I've been there. I remember being, a young man feeling, desperately hopeless. I know I suffered from depression. I was never, diagnosed with it. And I wish I would have been. So I could have taken some medication. But, my depression was real, and I would get into, little girlfriend type relationships and they'd break up with me. And I mean, it was severe, the heartbreak that I would have. Really, I mean, even, overly accentuated. I attempted suicide because I just, I took an overdose of pills and almost died because I felt hopeless. It's like, I don't know how to go forward. I don't, and I know it wasn't because of my father. It was because of the alcoholism. It's because of the alcoholism. It's not because of the person. It's the condition. The condition is what ravages lives and generations and dreams and careers and marriages. It's alcohol, the insidious nature, destructive nature of alcohol. It's horrible, horrific, right? So anyway, thank God I was saved from that. I was one. My brother wasn't.
Your brother?
Yeah, my younger brother who moved out, continued to be involved in alcohol, which ultimately moved into combination of alcohol, drugs, and got murdered in a drug transaction. Father of four.
A father of four. Your brother was murdered.
Buying pot in Atlanta. Yeah.
Wow, that must have just been devastating to you
Well, it
and
was
your family.
devastating. Forget about me. It was devastating to me, but and the truth is, I really couldn't process it until about 2 years later. Because I grew up, when I was growing up, I really didn't know how to express emotion. I was like a machine because I had to get through so much. I was the oldest son. I had to carry a lot of what was going on and keep things together. So it was really, really difficult for me to experience. But my parents, oh God, to lose a child,
Oh, yeah.
So that really is what turned my dad. He went really dark into alcohol from there. My mother went into food. My dad went into alcohol. Bad, worse, right?
Yeah. Wow. I mean, that's just devastating. Children experiencing parents with alcohol suffer immensely. You were saying that you spoke to a psychologist once about
Absolutely.
the damaging effects on children.
A very, very brilliant, one of the most brilliant people I actually was associated with. And she told me, I was in therapy. And she told me, she said, Jim, she told us to all of us, actually. She said, there's only one other group of children that suffer lifetime consequences more than the children of alcoholics. And that was the children of concentration camp prisoners, Nazi concentration camp prisoners. That was the only other group of children that suffer more psychological damage than the children of alcoholics. I'm assuming that also goes for drugs as well.
Wow. That is a sobering thing to ponder, isn't it?
Well, it's sobering because it can be so subtle. Because here's the thing, if you're in some, look, my dad was a cab driver, right? We were not wealthy, we were not the clients that I'm talking to, right? That are in our group. So, the effects of alcohol were real easy to see. But in the people that I'm speaking with, where money is not an issue, position is not an issue, children, for the most part, are raised in really, upper class type, it would seem like, you're doing really well by your kids. Your kids are not really suffering that much. And I can tell you this right now. What you're not seeing, you don't have the eyes to see, because your eyes are fogged up in your alcohol. You don't have the eyes to see what's going on with your children. You don't have the eyes to see that your daughter is associating you as a father and alcohol as being the type of person that she's comfortable with, because she's comfortable in that, having been raised with that. She's comfortable with that. So she will seek that out in another man. Because I asked the men, so just out of curiosity, does your wife also have a drinking issue? And in most cases, no. She could pick up a drink and have a drink. I said, just out of curiosity, do you know if your wife's father had a drinking problem? Yes. Yes, he did. She sought you out because that's what she was familiar with.
Wow.
I'm telling you, that's what I'm saying. It is generational. It's so insidious. You just don't see it. It's just like this snake. But it just, it's affecting your kids. It's affecting your kids and their behavior and who they're going to grow up to be, because they are in the relationship with you, with your alcohol. They're in that relationship also. So is your wife. So is your husband. The lie, the big lie is, this is only affecting me. And a lot of people that I speak with, they look to hide it. They look to hide it from their employees or from their wife, certainly from their children, from life, from themselves. It's the big lie. They call alcohol the big lie, right? And you think you're getting away with it, and you're not. You're not.
You're the father of 2 teenage girls.
Yes,
Jim.
I am.
So how do you in your home ensure that they're not being adversely affected by any of your behaviors?
Well, there is no drinking.
There's no drinking in your home. They don't see it. They don't experience it.
I'm not saying they haven't. Don't get me wrong. I'm not, you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying they haven't seen drinking. It's not like I can hide my kids from the world. Yes. However, there's no drinking in my home, right? And also, too, for example, we don't let my daughters do sleepovers, my teenage daughters. They don't do sleepovers because I know kids drink. I know kids drink. I know the 15-year-old, 14-year-old, especially with that. See, when I was a kid, they didn't have seltzers, alcohol, just, that's disguised as, an orange mango pomegranate deliciousness. Right. That's friggin' 9% alcohol.
Right.
Jesus. I mean, it's crazy, right? So it's like, no, I just don't put them in places where they can drink. Now, are they going to grow up and drink? I don't know. Really don't know, James. But one thing I do know is I'll recognize it. You ain't going to hide it from me because I see it. I'll see it. Yeah. And if I see that it's an issue, I'm gonna make sure I get involved.
Yeah, I get that. Got it.
All right. So,
Jim, thank you so much for sharing so openly about the effects on your family.
Yeah.
From the damaging effects of alcohol. Shocking to hear about your brother's murder, and shocking to just hear how ravaging and how debilitating alcohol can be on families.
Absolutely.
So thank you. I want to thank you for that. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
For those who are listening, anyone who applies to be part of our programs, we have a 90-day, we have a 1-year program where we help you to stop drinking. Anyone who applies ends up speaking verbally to Jim. So if you would like to apply, we'll have you speak to one of our coaches first of all, probably Coach Victoria English or Corey. And that'll just be a 15-minute conversation, just an initial application call. And if at that point it's appropriate for you to be considered in one of our programs, you'll end up speaking most likely to Jim, who you've just heard. If you do speak to Jim and you have listened to this, please do let him know that you heard his story on the podcast and share with him anything that maybe touched, moved, and inspired you. I'm sure Jim would like to hear that. Is there anything that you would like to share with anyone who ends up speaking with you, Jim? Anyone who might be listening now and pondering having a conversation with you and being part of our community?
Well, the one thing that I constantly hear from people that I speak with is that that which they are telling me, they have not told anyone ever before in their life. So, I tell them I'm like a priest in a confessional. There's nothing that's going to shock me. I've been with James for 9 years. I've spoken to thousands of people. The kindergarten teacher that goes home and slams 8 tequilas every night. It's just nothing shocks me. So, it is a place where we can talk openly. I certainly can relate I'm not here to sell anybody on our program. As a matter of fact, truly, you have to be invited in because we are a small executive community. We keep it that way because that's what works well, to have that personalization availability, right? To be able to be seen, to be heard. You're not in a group of 100 people on a Zoom screen. And then we'll take a look and see if it's appropriate. If it is, great. Let's move forward with it. If it's not, then I'll provide you some resources that might be more appropriate. But, it'll be a great call either way. And I look forward to it.
You can schedule your first call at alcoholfreelifestyle.com/schedule. That's where you'll just pick a time for either Coach Victoria or Corey to give you a call. And then after that, they'll book you in with Jim if appropriate. That link also is in the description of this very podcast episode as well, which you can just click on. Thank you so much again, Jim Miller. Really great honor to be able to share this time with you. Thank you again. Really appreciate that. Thank you for the wonderful service that you provide also to all of our clients so far and our clients to come. And to you, the listener, thank you so much for being here and listening to this. And we will catch you on the next one. Take care for now. Hi there, this is James Swanwick. Thank you so much for listening to the show. I would be so grateful if you would leave a review. That will help us climb the rankings and get our show exposed to so many more people who could really benefit from the content. You can do that by going into Apple Podcasts, rating the show, writing a little one-sentence summary, and posting it. That would be so amazing. Thank you. Likewise, if you would like to schedule a 15-minute exploratory call and apply for our Project 90 program, then you can do so by going to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/project90. If you'd like to get the free guide, that is the Alcohol Freedom Formula Guide, you can go to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/guide. Our YouTube channel is at alcoholfreelifestyle.com/YouTube. You can follow me on Instagram and TikTok at James Swanwick. Thank you so much for listening. We so appreciate you, and we'll catch you on the next one.